Beautiful people of the wonderful planet Earth, or whatever planet you might be on when you're watching this. My name is Ramon, and I'm here to talk to you about the Nokia Lumia 1020. Coming from the left field with a code name EOS. And at this point, I'm guessing EOS was some sort of foreign language for oh my god, because that's what I think of when it's time to describe this phone. So without further ado, let's tear it down. We get this unibody design that's made entirely of this polycarbonate plastic, and according to Nokia, it's some sort of super plastic. It's highly durable and very hard to damage, very resilient to the madness you may want to put your phone through. And after owning a 900 and a 920, they've got a point. This thing's very strong, and I'm happy to see them continue with not only the rigid design that I've come to love, but the materials that make it so durable. I'm happy to have matte again. Maybe I would have liked something like a red instead of this, what the hell is that, yellow? But I'll deal with it. It is what it is. Coming in with a 4.5 inch display with 1280 by 760 resolution, which is pretty much 720, a little higher, and sporting a 334 ppi density. This display performs well, especially with some of the built-in tricks, I guess you should say, Nokia added to make it a little more readable in sunlight. It is a very nice display. Let's not forget that it also has this super or hyper sensitivity where you can use it with a stylus if you wanted to, the tip of your fingernail, and even something like a glove. It's a very responsive display, and of course that's wrapped over with a Gorilla Glass 3. I guess we're just gonna keep going up in numbers from generation to generation with Gorilla Glass, whatever. On the side of the device, you're going to find your volume rockers up and down, your power button in the middle, and your camera button way down to the bottom. To the back, you see this huge 41 megapixel lens bulge, or encasing for the lens. However you want to phrase that, it's huge and it does stand out. This was something I wondered how Nokia would have pulled it off when I first saw it on the pure view. And they definitely did a good job at making this fit into the mold for the Lumias. It sure does add its fair bit of awkwardness when trying to hold the device. And I spent a good few hours actually picking this thing up and feeling awkward, trying not to touch the encasing for the lens. One thing I will say is it's nice that encasing is complete metal. That makes it very susceptible to scratches, so you might want to watch out for that. Also, putting this thing down on a table isn't really going to be a pleasurable thing. It rocks in a very awkward way, and I don't mean like an HTC One way. It's just sort of awkward when you put it down on the table. One thing I do really like is the lens is a little higher than it was on a 920. So I find when just holding the phone for, very natural day-to-day use, my finger doesn't land squarely on the lens at the back of the actual glass, which is a huge issue for me because I'd have to walk around with a microcloth just to clean the glass off and remove the smudges and the oil to take a picture. So that hasn't happened as yet, and I'm happy about that. Right under the lens, you'll find the two connectors for the wireless charging. There's an accessory now that you'll buy if you want wireless charging, and more on that a little later. And that plays in directly with the design because they opted to sacrifice some of that thickness for the wireless charging. So it's neither here nor there depending on who you are. And with that accessory, you add that later, it turns out it's actually a little thinner than the 920, so it's a win for someone. On the bottom left, you'll find that you've got the holes for the lanyard or the camera strap, whatever people call that thing. This is classic Nokia. I'm happy to see them add it. For the ladies out there, you can definitely accessorize your phone. with little to no worries. Spec wise, the 1020 is almost identical to the 920. We had a few conversations about this. Check out those videos of if this is an issue or not. I don't see it as much as an issue because Windows Phone isn't generally a hungry OS. So I can dig the fact that they're reusing a lot of the core specs from the 920 because it really does a nice job at running with what it has. So you get a dual core Snapdragon 1.5 gigahertz processor here. You get 2 gigs of RAM, which is up from 1 gig from the 920. You get 32 gigs of internal storage. In the connectivity field, you get the usual suspects. You get NFC, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, LTE, and of course, FM radio. Now, from a specs point of view, I think the 2 gigs of RAM, which many have speculated was needed to run the processors or processes behind this 41 megapixel monster, I've actually seen a good bit of improvements with just everyday use of the phone. We're talking, auto searching in Bing, typing a website in IE, launching apps, or even playing games. Everything seems a tad bit more responsive than it did on the 920, which is always a good thing. Boring stuff out the way, here's what we're really here for, and here's what makes this phone completely special and unlike anything on the market: the camera. Nokia managed to cram a 41 megapixel camera on the back of this thing. Impressive. I think it's either 6 or 7 lenses inside, Carl Zeiss lenses, or just Zeiss. They changed the name, whatever. There's some image stabilization going on with both images and video, and that's done with some sort of ball mechanism now as opposed to the springs from before. And they went ahead and added a xenon flash. Although it's a 41 megapixel camera, it takes 2 different images at once. It takes a 34 megapixel image and a 5 megapixel image simultaneously. Then it does what's called oversampling. So it takes that 34 megapixel image and it compresses it down to the size of a 5 megapixel image. Now, there's some concept behind this. There's some thought to be had if you're going to really grasp how this works. And I've explained this before. It's pretty much taking a full-size video like what you're watching right now on YouTube and making it an eighth the size of the screen. Everything looks so awesome when it's crammed down to a much smaller resolution, but it still maintains that quality. That's what's going on here. So impressively enough, the 34 megapixel images have a wild resolution at 7712 by 5360. And the 5 megapixel image, or the after effect or oversampled image, can range from anywhere from 30 something to 20 something, up or down. Give it a few pixels on the resolutions, but they look really good. I was thoroughly impressed with the 5 megapixel images that were compressed from full resolution. One neat trick Nokia did as well, what they like to call reinvented zoom. So if you take the original image and you crop it or you oversample it, you always have the ability to go back and recrop it, reframe it however you want. Now, I can tell you this is such a dope thing from a photographer's perspective, because you never really miss a shot. You always have the ability to go back and get it right. As long as you capture the general frame, the general theme of what's going on, you'll be okay. But what's also dope is I find when you take that full-blown 34 megapixel image, you can zoom in and see things you really didn't see before. So for instance, taking a street shot on Manhattan, I can zoom in on a truck that's parked off to the right and read the license plate, whereas I couldn't see that in the 34 megapixel image. but because it's such a large resolution, it actually maintains the quality, and they call this a lossless zoom. It's really dope technology. It's really simple when you think about it, and it's interesting to see Nokia do it, because now I'm thinking to myself, wow, this has got to make it to every point and shoot on the market, or they're pointless. One of the things Nokia did here is they gave us what's called the Pro Cam app. You could imagine having 41 megapixels on a camera and no real way to control it, a complete waste. Now don't get me wrong, this thing takes very beautiful pictures on auto, but when it comes to, you know, excessive light or lack of light, you're gonna want to take some control of the camera. So Pro Cam allows you to adjust things like the focus manually, the white balance, the exposure. The one thing it doesn't allow you to do is the f-stop, which is okay. The aperture, it's locked at 2.2. So you don't really get to play with a lot of depth of field stuff, but it's still really impressive. And the design, the UI, this sort of semicircle, half circle thing, it's done very well. I find it's easy to use, and one of the things that really blew my mind when I first started to learn how to use it was they mastered the program mode almost effortlessly. So for those of you with SLR cameras, you know what program modes are. You've got your TV or AV, if you got a Canon at least. So what it does is it allows you to change the settings on the aperture, or you can change the white balance, or you can change the shutter speed without having to worry about all the other settings. You can just have these things on auto. So it's essentially you take control of one specific aspect of the camera and keep the rest on auto. Nokia Pro Cam lets you do that with ease. So along with the camera abilities, the Pro Cam fits right in, and I think it's a good tool to teach people, even casual buyers for the phone, teach them how to get into photography, and they actually do a good job. There's some paperwork when you buy the phone, and there's some videos and some test images on the phone that you can adjust the settings and see how it affects them. So they're obviously taking this camera thing really seriously. So kudos to Nokia for that. In terms of video, I was really skeptical here, and I was really upset with Nokia back at the launch of the 920, when the whole debacle that they did with, you know, lying to us with the SLR recording the girl on the bike, and they said it was the phone. You know, the phone really does take amazing video, but it left a stigma, and it's sort of like, you know, you guys didn't have to do that. The video was already phenomenal. Now here I am with the 1020, and one of the features, the bigger features with the video recording here is you can zoom in 4 times, a digital zoom 4 times, and still remain at 1080p quality, and then you can go as far as 7x, 7 times, and the camera dials the quality down to 720 at this point, but it's all seamless. I'm happy to say that works well. Not only does that work well, but the overall quality that we get from the 1020 video wise is mind-blowing. This is so good, and it's interesting to me because we spent a lot of time learning how to really use our T3i, and then we got a T4i later, and there was a lot of trial and error and really fighting to learn how to do proper video to get the best results. This thing on the tripod, as you can see here, almost knocked it out of the box with little to no knowledge. So quick tip, we did a video. The first video was on fully auto, did not come out well. In the studio at least, the autofocus was going wild, the white balance kept jumping. So what we did was put the autofocus on infinity, and I was really impressed Nokia had that option in there. Infinity pretty much means everything was in focus. Now out in the street, some street photography like the Times Square shot, you want autofocus on because people are going to be walking in and out, cars are going to be driving by. You want it to do what it has to do to give you a good shot. Also, on top of the video capabilities, there's some trickery here with the stereo recording that the Lumia does. So it has the ability to really measure extremes in terms of sound, and it'll actually try its best to give you a decent sound of what's important and filter out what's not. I tried this in Times Square and it did work pretty well. Traffic was a little faint, but the people that were walking by, I could really hear them clearly. It's really impressive how they managed to pull that together. Some really smart engineering going on there. So yes, the design is awesome. The specs are good enough. They're what we need. And the camera is out of this world. But Nokia did not stop there. There's a host of software that they include with this thing that really makes the experience of the Lumia 1020 worth it. For instance, you get the entire hair suite. That's their navigation, or they call it drive. That's their maps. That's the transit. There's a creative studio application that goes along with the photography, and that gives you the ability to edit your pictures and add some filters to it and play with the tilt switch. There's a video trimmer, which is a little primitive at this point, but I'll take it. There's even a YouTube uploader, which has been a huge gap in the platform. They also added, I think, what's just called the clock. So the screen is always on. It always displays a clock. If you've ever owned a Blackberry, when it's charging, you know how it displays the time and the alarms. Very similar to that concept. And what I really like about the clock is when you double tap the screen, it wakes it up. So there's no need to press the power button. That was actually one of my favorite features on the Blackberry. I'm so happy to have it on the Lumia. There's even options in the settings to set a time. So I have mine set from 9 p.m. to I think it was 5 a.m. The brightness on the clock is lowered a bit. Weirdly enough, it just looks red to me, but whatever. If they say it's lower, it's lower. Outside of the wireless charging accessory that you can get to put on the back, Nokia went ahead and developed a camera grip, and you can tell right off the back that they're serious about this. $60, you get this camera grip where you slide the phone down into, it connects via the USB, and there you go. This thing is damn near as good as a regular point and shoot. The grip itself does have a battery on it and battery indicator. When you're using the grip, it's actually charging the phone, so you don't have to worry about killing your battery, taking pictures, so on and so forth. It even has a slot to slide the lanyard down so everything fits nicely. It also comes with a lanyard, a much bigger version of the one that's included with the Lumia. It's a leather version. That's a plus. One thing I can say about the grip is it really did improve my pictures, because again, it's all about the grip and how steady I was able to be when taking pictures. If you're taking this picture thing seriously, I would recommend it, especially at $60. Not a bad deal at all. So when you put the package together, I mentioned this was the most exciting device I've had or I've owned in a long time. And in the grand scheme of things, I think that list goes back to the HD2, the iPhone 4, and now the Lumia 1020. It's such a giant step in technology. Photos are important to me. I live a very fast-paced life, and I don't always get time to slow down and enjoy the moment. But I do make it a habit to take pictures and capture video. This is the stuff that I want to be able to show my kids and my grandkids, or reminisce with my significant other. So not having to walk around with a point and shoot, having the ability to have my companion, my phone, my smartphone, be just that and fill that gap very well is a mind-blowing experience to me. And just to be fair, I was happy with something like an iPhone 4. I was happy with my Lumia 920, but this is just pure bliss. So when you talk about who this device is for, myself outside of the equation, it really comes down to what you do, and if photography is a big deal to you. If you're a photographer or even a videographer, you'll find that the control that you have over this camera with Nokia's Pro app and the options you're able to do and how you're able to dial in the white balance and the manual focus, these things are worth a lot to you. These things are something that is going to blow your mind when you think about having it on a phone that's in your pocket. Now, when you want to compare this to an iPhone 4S or like an HTC One, a Galaxy 4, you're sort of taking it somewhere where it just can't compete. The Windows Phone platform does not have, the boatload of apps that these platforms have. It doesn't have the quad-core processors. It doesn't have the popularity. But what it does have, again, is a mind-blowing camera experience, a rock-solid OS, a very stable OS, and something you can live with. Now, for $300, can I recommend the Lumia 1020? Now, I've had this debate with a few people, and I find everyone's excited about it, and they say, "Oh man, when can I get it? How much is it?" And I say $300, and they all go, "Ooh." So I ask, "Well, how much did you pay for your iPhone?" And they say, "Well, the iPhone was only $200." I said, "Okay, that's fine. Now, how much gigs did you have in that iPhone?" "Oh, 16. There we go. "And well, did you have a 41 megapixel super oversampling camera with some sort of NBC recording video capabilities?" No. My point here is the price is not out of this world. This phone is completely special. It's in a league of its own, and it's priced adequately. I really don't see much of a qualm with the price. All in all, I think Nokia did a very good job to differentiate themselves from the market. They put a lot of work in, they put a lot of elbow grease in, and now here's a very fit and finished product where they can say, this is why you would want to buy a Nokia. And I'm happy to say it works. They own that. They deserve that. And from a possible 5, I give this phone a 5. And I'm not giving it a 5 because it's the best smartphone on the market, because it's the fastest smartphone on the market. I'm giving it a 5 because it's in a lane of its own. The phone is what it is. It doesn't try to be anything else, and it excels at what it does. That, my friends, is a 5 out of a 5.